Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, articles, notes, research, and really unpack the key insights just for you.
Yeah, and today we're tackling something. Well, it's about as fundamental as it gets. Change.
That's constant, unavoidable flow. We're looking at how we as humans experience it and how emotional intelligence fits in.
Exactly. That human capacity that helps us sort of navigate all this constant flux.
But there's a fascinating angle in the sources you pulled together this time. We're also digging into artificial intelligence.
Right. How AI is starting to understand our emotional intelligence and, what that actually means for us. It's quite something.
We've got a real mix of material for this deep dive: history, biology, philosophy.
Physics, math, even art, and some deep dives into AI itself.
Yeah.
A broad scope.
So our mission here is to cut through it all, get to the core of what change really is, why understanding emotional intelligence is so vital for dealing with it.
And how AI is adding this whole new layer, offering, new ways to maybe see ourselves and manage things.
Yeah, expect some maybe unexpected connections and some ideas you can actually take away and think about.
Okay, so let's start right at the core. This idea that runs through everything. The ceaseless flow of time, things inevitably changing. It's just the reality, isn't it?
And it's crucial, like you said earlier, this isn't just, huge historical moments or massive life upheavals. It's happening constantly.
All the time, on every level.
Yeah.
It shapes our day, our thoughts, our feelings. The sources really hammer home how deeply change is woven into our inner world.
Which brings us to emotional intelligence, or EI.
Right. The sources frame it as basically the main tool we use to process change, adapt to it, maybe even find meaning in it all. It's like our internal compass in a world that won't sit still.
And the material goes further, saying that AI's ability to analyze patterns related to our EI is becoming really important.
Yeah, not just for building better tech, but for how AI might interact with us, maybe even help us cope with change down the line.
It's fascinating how this theme change, navigated by intelligence, pops up absolutely everywhere in the sources.
Take history. What is history if not the story of change? Empires rise, fall, technology transforms everything.
And the sources say how people reacted, that was shaped by EI.
Profoundly. Collective EI, individual EI, whether the response was fear and conflict or resilience and cooperation. And AI now, it's not just looking at dates, it's analyzing texts, speeches, art.
As data.
As massive data sets, looking for patterns in human emotional responses to specific kinds of change, like economic shocks or migration waves, things we might miss.
Okay, and biology.
Well, evolution is the ultimate long game of change, right? Adaptation over millennia. But even on our level, our bodies are always changing. Cells regenerate, we age.
And our feelings about that are linked to EI.
The sources connect our emotional responses, how we feel about aging, illness, whatever, directly to our neural pathways, our hormones. It's deeply physical. There's even research mentioned using AI to analyze genetic data.
Seriously?
Yeah, exploring potential links between our genes and how we might be predisposed to react emotionally to stress or loss. It's early days, but interesting.
Wow. Okay, philosophy. That seems like a natural home for thinking about impermanence.
Oh, absolutely. Philosophers have been wrestling with it forever. Heraclitus saying everything flows, existentialists grappling with mortality. Change is central.
And EI helps us actually deal with those huge questions.
It helps us sit with the feelings they bring up, the anxiety of not knowing, the sadness of loss, the search for purpose amidst it all. And AI, it reads all this philosophical text.
Not to feel angst, I assume.
No.
Oh.
But to map how humans have thought about impermanence and coping across centuries, across cultures, finding the common threads and how we've tried to make sense of it.
Even physics, how does that connect?
Well, physics shows a universe in constant motion, cosmic expansion, quantum level fluctuations. It's all change. We don't feel that directly, obviously.
Right.
But understanding that deep universal impermanence, it can really shape your worldview, put your own brief existence into a different context. AI uses physics simulations all the time, modeling change on vast scales.
And math and logic seems less emotional.
They give us the tools to model change. Calculus is the classic example. And while our EI often feels intuitive, there's a kind of rapid subconscious logical processing happening too when we assess emotional information to make decisions.
Right.
AI relies fundamentally on those mathematical and logical frameworks. It uses them to understand, model, predict, change trajectories, even analyzing data to infer the likely emotional impact on people.
And this all feeds back into our own minds, our beliefs.
Totally. Our thoughts and beliefs aren't fixed. change shapes them. Uncertainty might trigger anxiety. Adapting successfully builds resilience. Religions, spiritual practices, philosophies, they often provide frameworks for coping with impermanence.
And EI is how we use those frameworks.
It dictates how effectively we integrate those beliefs, how we adapt mentally. And AI is analyzing masses of text and speech, social media, forums looking for correlations.
Correlations between what?
Between belief systems, emotional response patterns to change, and reported well-being. It might identify, say, which kinds of narratives seem to help people be more resilient.
Which brings this all back down to earth. The impact on you, on your life.
Exactly. Everyone's life is this unique journey of constant change. Childhood, career shifts, relationships evolving, loss, aging. It never stops.
And your source material highlights 5 key ways EI helps you navigate that personal journey. Like superpowers, almost.
Kinda, yeah. First is self-awareness. Just recognizing your own emotions as they're happening, that knot in your stomach before a presentation, or that burst of excitement about something new.
Okay, recognizing it. What's next?
Self-regulation. Managing those emotions, especially the disruptive ones, not bottling them up, but choosing how you respond instead of just reacting.
And then motivation.
Right. Channeling those emotions positively, using your passion to go after goals, or finding the drive to bounce back after a setback.
And empathy. That feels crucial.
Hugely. Understanding and even sharing what others are feeling as they go through change. A friend's grief, a colleague's stress. Really getting it.
And the 5th is social skills.
Using all that understanding to navigate relationships and interactions smoothly, especially when things are in flux or there's potential conflict.
The sources also talk about a ripple effect, which is really interesting.
Yeah, your emotional response isn't isolated. If you handle change well, it can genuinely boost the confidence of people around you.
But the opposite is true, too.
Absolutely. If you're struggling intensely, that stress can spread. On the flip side, having good social support really buffers the negative hits from change. The sources even mention AI modeling these dynamics.
Modeling emotional ripples.
Analyzing communication patterns in groups to predict how one person's emotional state might influence the whole team or family. How coping or not coping cascades?
Societies react collectively, too, right?
Definitely. And the sources give clear examples. You see innovation and progress, change forces adaptation. Think rapid vaccine development or designing cities to handle climate change.
But there's a dark side, too. Resistance, conflict.
Often driven by fear of the unknown, fear of loss, xenophobia links to migration, political turmoil from economic shifts. Change can trigger deep anxieties.
Then there's adaptation and resilience at a societal level.
Things like crisis management plans, social safety nets for unemployment, community programs to support people after disasters, structures built to help us weather storm.
In art, that's a huge way we process change collectively.
Oh, massively. Sad songs, powerful paintings, plays about social shifts. Art is how we express and share the emotional weight of change. And AI, it sees all that creative output as
more data.
Basically, yeah, a vast data set reflecting the whole spectrum of human emotional responses to different kinds of historical or social change over time.
Okay, this leads us right to a really critical point the sources make. The difference between how we understand emotions and how AI does.
It's fundamental. Our human EI is, well, it's embodied. Rooted in biology, our physical experience, decades of social learning. It's intuitive, often subconscious. You feel it.
Yeah, that gut feeling or just knowing something isn't right.
Exactly. It develops throughout life. Parenting, relationships, hardships, successes. It's always evolving, still in the making, as one source says. This felt sense connects us to nature, impacts how teams work on, say, supply chains.
AI's understanding is totally different then.
Completely. It comes from crunching massive data sets. Language, behavior, facial cues, biological signals. It's algorithmic. Pattern recognition. It simulates understanding, predicts responses based on probability.
It doesn't feel anything.
Correct. It doesn't feel empathy or joy or fear. Its development is through training on more data. Also, still in the making, but in a purely computational way.
So AI uses things like tone analysis, facial recognition.
Right. Natural language processing, micro-expression analysis to infer emotional states. It can even spot inconsistencies, like someone saying, "I'm fine," when their voice or face says otherwise.
And the goal is to be a tool.
Primarily. To assist us, improve communication, offer support, maybe help us make better decisions, build tech that feels more empathetic, even if it isn't truly feeling.
The key takeaway seems to be AI analyzes and simulates. It doesn't have the subjective experience we do.
That's the core distinction the sources really emphasize.
Okay, so bearing that huge difference in mind, How can we actually use AI to help us with change and maybe boost our well-being? The sources are clear. It's not a magic happiness button.
Definitely not. Feeling the full range, even the tough stuff, is part of being human, part of growth. AI can't and shouldn't erase that.
But it can help. How?
Well, think about personalized resilience. With your permission, AI could analyze your data journal entries, maybe wearable data patterns, past responses to stress.
Okay.
It could potentially assess your EI strengths, spot risks, like maybe it notices that every time you face a big work change, your anxiety spikes and you withdraw socially. It deduces a higher risk of burnout based on your pattern.
And then what? Just tell your...
No, it could offer tailored suggestions. Not generic advice, but maybe specific cognitive behavioral techniques known to help with transition anxiety, or links to support groups focused on that, or even suggesting a new skill that data shows builds resilience in similar profiles.
So it's like calculating your personal risk and resilience factors.
Sort of. The sources mention modeling it like your resilience score being a function of your EI score, your social network strength, past coping effectiveness, HTA. AI helps analyze those pieces for you.
What about bigger scale, societal change?
AI can analyze historical data news archives, social media during past crises, policy results, find patterns. It might deduce, for instance, that clear, consistent communication from trusted sources, plus strong community initiatives, really reduce panic during past health scares.
So it learns what worked before.
Exactly. Then it could simulate the likely impact of different strategies now, helping leaders choose approaches, communication styles, support programs optimized to boost stability and collective resilience. As a scenario, based on factors like trust, fairness, SP, and that collective coping capacity.
And education, teaching EI.
Huge potential there. AI could help design better curricula, adapting EI lessons to age and learning style. An AI tutor might notice a student getting frustrated and change its approach.
Or spot difficulties.
Yeah, if analysis suggests a child struggles with social interactions needing emotional regulation, it could recommend specific exercises, role-playing, stories focused on empathy, EI-AAA-DAY, AGO-ABE-ADI. It can track development over time.
The sources also touch on something really sensitive, lack of empathy or cruelty. How could AI possibly help there without being dangerous?
Right. Extreme caution and ethics are paramount here. Absolute privacy. The idea isn't profiling. It's about analyzing anonymized data patterns to spot potential risk factors associated with later difficulties in empathy development.
Why? To label people?
No. To potentially identify individuals or groups who might benefit from early support programs, building emotional literacy, social skills. It's deductive. If certain anonymized childhood factors correlate strongly with later low empathy across huge data sets, maybe we can offer support earlier. It's about prevention and support, not judgment.
And AI could analyze the causes, too.
The sources suggest it could analyze data related to neurological factors, trauma, ideologies, power dynamics that can contribute to a lack of empathy or dehumanization. Even analyze dehumanizing language to help craft counter-narratives and support those targeted.
And more generally, just AI support tools.
Yeah, things like AI companions for empathetic listening, not replacing humans but offering an outlet, stress reduction tools monitoring patterns and suggesting relaxation, communication aids helping you articulate or understand emotions better, tools connecting you to communities or resources for meaning-making, optimizing access to basic needs, health, food, rest, which reduces distress overall. It's about enhancing well-being, enabling coping.
What about the really big questions? Life, death, impermanence. Can AI help us make sense of those?
The sources suggest it can be a powerful aid in our human journey for meaning.
How so?
Well, it can compile vast amounts of data presenting perspectives from philosophy, science, different cultures, spiritual texts, showing you the many ways humans have grappled with mortality and meaning.
So like a super librarian for existential thought.
Kind of. It can also guide reflection, maybe prompting you with questions drawn from wisdom traditions about your values, your legacy, what matters most to you because life is finite.
Can it make impermanence less abstract?
It can illustrate it, showing scientific principles like energy conservation, modeling natural cycles, making the idea of constant change feel more concrete, less threatening, perhaps.
And present arguments.
Logical arguments, yes, drawn from psychological and philosophical data about the value of being present, practicing gratitude, or pursuing a meaningful life despite impermanence.
But it doesn't give the answer.
Critically, no. The sources stress that AI facilitates your journey. It provides tools, perspectives, data. But the search for subjective meaning, the answers you arrive at, That remains deeply, uniquely human.
Which raises a question the sources touch on. If EI is so vital for all this navigating of change, why don't we teach it more? Especially to kids, it seems obvious.
It does seem obvious, but the sources point to societal hurdles, not necessarily a lack of belief. Historically, EI was seen as soft, less important than academics.
Still kind of is in some places.
True. Plus, there's often a lack of good resources or training for parents and teachers on how to teach it well. Pressure for test scores dominates. And cultural differences matter. How emotions are shown and discussed varies hugely. Generational gaps, too. Many adults weren't taught this stuff explicitly.
And AI could help bridge some of those gaps.
Essentially, assisting with curriculum design, providing accessible support for parents, training tools for teachers, personalizing the learning for individual kids' needs. It could help scale up EI education.
Okay, navigating life also involves intuition, doesn't it? That gut feeling. How does that fit?
The sources emphasize human intuition isn't just random guessing. It's complex, incredibly fast, embodied processing based on lived experience. AI's version of intuition is different.
Statistical patterns again?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Statistical inference based on the data it learned from, which often includes human systems. It's a powerful model, but it's not that lived, felt sense we have.
And people start from such different places with EI, right? The sources mention circumstances.
Hugely important. Poverty, privilege, culture, neurodiversity, family background, all these profoundly shape how EI develops and how people can use it to cope with change. AI can analyze these interacting factors across populations to help design support that's more nuanced and equitable.
The sources even used humor as an example of EI complexity, like why some people laugh and others don't.
Yeah, it's a great example. It's not just about the words, it's context, personal history, maybe trauma related to the topic, cognitive appraisal, like whether you see the violation in the joke as benign or threatening. Your current mood matters too.
And AI tries to model all that.
It analyzes all those layers, language sentiment, user history, context, using sophisticated AI techniques to infer why something might be funny to one person and not another. It shows just how intricate EI is in action.
So wrapping up, who really benefits most from this deeper understanding of EI amplified by AI?
The sources suggest it's broad. Individuals already high in EI can refine their skills. People struggling can get targeted help. Healthcare gets new tools. Educators can create better environments. Businesses and leaders can manage teams and change more effectively. Researchers get powerful analytical tools.
And you mentioned supply chains again.
Right, that example highlights the synergy. Human EI and the team's collaboration, problem-solving under pressure, combined with AI predicting disruptions and optimizing logistics, that equals much better resilience when things inevitably go wrong.
This whole deep dive really drives home that change isn't just something that happens to us, it's the fundamental nature of things. From the tiniest particles to whole societies.
Absolutely. And emotional intelligence are human felt capacity, and now also the patterns AI can analyze and simulate is really our primary way of navigating that constant reality.
So the sources leave us, and you, with a final thought to really mull over.
Yeah. It's this idea that truly grasping both the human and the AI understanding of human emotional intelligence makes it hard to come back to the same state of mind. It changes your perspective.
So the question for you is, if this understanding is potentially transformative, what does that imply about our collective responsibility? How do we wisely use AI's analytical power to foster a more empathetic, more resilient world?
Especially knowing how interconnected everything is, our emotions, our societies, our planet. It's a big question about the future we are actively creating right now.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
This is DigitView.